since we don't have much control over it, might as well, to kind of choose to do something that we have control over. And how are you?
Yeah, right. I'm good. Lockdown over here is not that much strict. It's quite flexible, especially when it comes to work. So we are visiting universities. We are working on campus with all the SOPs by keeping that thing in our mind. And life is busy, and I think busy is super good.
Yeah, busy means you have things to do, and especially if it's something that is meaningful rather than some task, then it's even better.
Yeah, right. Good. All right, so Ruta Ka, should we hop into our topic now?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good either way. So since I was born in Lithuania, we're very straightforward. Like, hello, okay. Now let's discuss the relationship. What what do you have to say about that?
All right. Fine. Okay. Ruta Ka, tell us what is our relationship according to your point of view, and how you explain your relationships in general.
Generally relationships.
Yeah.
I'll start from general, and I think then I can a little bit condense on anything more specific. So, generally, relationship is some form of connection, some form of interaction between two or more people. So there are different groups of relationships. There are family relationships, there are work relationships, there are close relationships, there are formal relationships. So we can say we have relationships with any people that we have any kind of interaction. Of course, probably for the sake of our discussion, we don't necessarily need to include the, very kind of like a brief interactions with other people where we say, hello, are you all right? Are you all right? Okay, bye. But I think for the purpose of our discussion to me, is a connection between two people that they have to interact with each other for a little bit prolonged period of time. So something that you can't just see person one time and then never see them again. To me, that's not relationship. To me, that's interaction. But relationship is when you build something or don't build something, but where you have to have a constant form of interaction in whichever environment you are interacting. So that's relationship. And what was the first question?
How would you see relationships? Like, it's a general term that you have explained so far, right? So how would your personal experience about relationships? Just a little,
Okay. I guess I can bring in also what is healthy and what is not healthy, or I'm just going to give background in my understanding of relationships and how it kind of morphed. So I never even had any kind of like deep thought about relationship, because I thought relationship is something that is given. You're born in your family, and there's certain rules, and that's how people interact with each other, and you accept it, and this is normal. So you don't really even think that there is something for you to question. So to me, how my relationships went, I think later we can probably maybe narrow it down to different areas of relationship. But to me personally, it kind of, it started like by default, like for most of the people. You just have these interactions. This person, for example, your mom or your dad tells you what to do, you do it. Your older sister maybe tells you what to do, you do it. You play with your younger sister. There are people in school. This person is nice to you, you are friends. This person is not nice to you, you're not friends. And I think relationships kind of like went for me by default. I think only later in life, probably in my mid-20s to my 30s, I started to understand that some of the relationships that I had is actually not healthy. Because I never questioned that before. And I have not even, I thought it's just like, that's how things are, or that person is bad person, or maybe I'm the bad person. And I never questioned, like, how is supposed to be, what is healthy for both people in a relationship. So that was my experience. Do you want to share yours as well?
Yeah, why not? For me, as you have already said, that relationship is something which is a little more long-lasting in nature. It's not like meeting people for a day or two by keeping in mind the purpose of a meeting, like any professional meeting or any sort of, some wedding or party meeting for 2 or 3 days consecutively. That's not a relationship. That's an interaction, or you can say a friendly communication between two people for a certain period of time. But relationship comes when you have to be there for those people in thick and thin. Along with that, you care for them, you take their perspective seriously, you talk about multiple things related to the life, related to the reality with people. So this is basically relationship in my perspective. One more thing is that a relationship for me is always about giving respect, love, and care to the people, and those who are giving me the likewise. But the toxic people or the negative things, I really don't cater them. In a relationship, I really don't take that kind of relationship for a longer extent. I cut them very easily. And the reason for this is I do have bad experiences in life. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
So because of those bad experiences, I learned that no, this is not a healthy relationship. That is not working for my mental health or my well-being. So I think I should cut it off. So that's what my experience is about relationship. I think now we should talk about what are toxic relationships, so that people who are listening to us right now or later on, they can understand how they will rate their relationship in the positive domain or in the toxic domain.
Sure. So I can share some. So just to kind of a little bit brief background as well, I was not really so aware about what is toxic relationship and what is not toxic relationship. And I think the first place where I saw that was actually in my family and in my friendships. So because I had the concept, and I think that's a trap for many people who identify themselves with being good. For example, I'm Ruta, I'm a good person, I get on with everybody, and you think because you are good and you are, you should understand other people, you get on with everybody. Very often people like that get into this kind of like a trap of being involved with other people who, well, we don't have to classify yet narcissistic or not narcissistic, but the nature of the relationship often can become toxic because this one person who is taking all the time or not treating the other person with respect, and the other person who's putting up with that. So first of all, I noticed these dynamics in my family with some family members, and I think because it's family, it's so hard to question it. And especially if you've grown up with that, and then at some point you realize, wait a minute, this thing is actually making me feel like I'm not being respected. This thing is making me feel like I'm not being seen. This thing, it's making me feel like I'm drained of my energy every single time I have this interaction. So I think this type of things is the first thing to start to become aware that you may be in a toxic relationship. Because toxic, definition of toxic, what is toxic? Toxic is something that is poisonous. Now we're talking about something that is maybe not not toxic in like not a drink that is toxic, but toxic to your well-being, toxic to your mental health, toxic to how you feel. So in my opinion, that's the first thing that you would notice, if you have these type of dynamics in your environment. And not as lucky as you, I had to learn it through the hard way. And I think some of the relationships and connections I dragged way too long, up until the time I got really tired. And then I was like, you know what? This is just too tiring. This is not really good for me. And then I had to end some friendships because of that. So, and get some distance from some people in my family as well. So that's how I would say first sign of toxic relationship. Toxic relationship is something that is basically, it's not nurturing you. It's kind of like you can feel like you're being poisoned, not literally, but there is something that is being taken out of you all the time. And you have this feeling that you lost something. Like you had this interaction, you lost your time, you lost your energy, you lost your peace. So that's how I would describe it. What's your experience with that?
Okay, here I would like to add the tinge of basically the joint family system, which is very common in Eastern countries.
Yeah.
So I think when there are a lot of people who are actually expressing their emotions too much, like too much expressed emotions, can also be the part of toxic relationship.
Right.
We must see that 2 or 3 families are living together in a home, or they have one of the families having some kind of issue between them, but the people who are living with them, like the second and third family, they're gonna interfere in their problem. They would suggest a lot of things to resolve the problem, but in actual they are taking it to another worse level. They have to keep their suggestions with them until and unless they are asked for,
Yeah.
Why they are putting out so much to the people who are already in trouble or who are having some sort of issues in their relationship? Why we are poking them or, putting our leg into their matter? Why? So I think it's one of the ingredient of toxic relationship, which especially the people who are living in joint family or Eastern culture must understand. They think that it's a kind of care, but it's not a care. We have to differentiate it. It's not care. It's basically toxicity, which will grow eventually with time. Because when first time they will give you suggestions and you will put some effort to implement that suggestion, so next time they will give you 2 suggestions and then 3 and then bulk of suggestions with the passage of time. So I think we need to cut down that in first or second attempt, that no, we don't need your suggestions, we will ask when we need it, so that a mutual respect can be maintained in the family, who are living in a joint system. And one more thing in toxicity, which I will say, that sometimes people become so much possessive about each other, about the whole scenario. So that possessiveness is becoming toxic when that person who is possessive for you is not giving you space to grow. If you are not growing, if you are not polishing your traits, you are not given enough space to put out your own opinions publicly. So I think that possessiveness is toxic. That is not love or care in a relationship. That's toxicity. And that we all need to mention or recognize that, okay, now things are getting worse and I have to control or take a boundary now, with that person.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is my take on toxic relationship.
I have something I have something to add, because it was very interesting what you said. it kind of like gave me some other things that I wanted to add. Yes, I mean, the situation in let's say where I live, it's not very often that we have that much of extended family living together. But there are still situations that, you know, this happens, and it could be sometimes like not even with the family or with friends, you know, or with the friends who are trying to give you advice. Personally, I think is this, you know, sometimes people try to give you advice not because they really want to help you. Ego. Take, you know, I'm going to solve your problem for you. This is sometimes can be very disempowering for people. And also, like you said, you know, like, it's not showing respect. Somebody is already having some problem, right? Who is responsible for resolution? The person who has the problem. So when somebody comes in and try to say, do this, do it like that, they become so, sometimes people can become so overwhelmed with, they already have an internal pressure, and they start to have this kind of like a external pressure. And you know, like that's not helping. And also, for some people who don't really have much confidence, it could actually ruin their self-trust, because they're like, oh, I can't even handle my own problems, you know. So, and about possessiveness, I just wanted to kind of add, I had some experience with that. I do think that is not, I agree with you. I don't think this is care. It's very often is insecurity. And, you know, but I think it's very unhealthy for a relationship. Care is fine. Being concerned is fine, you know. But when you have this super possessiveness and you kind of like close in the person so tightly, the person doesn't have anywhere to go. Like, who's going to be happy in that situation? So, you know, like, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a very important thing to see and recognize, and not to mistake. People may say, well, I'm just being caring. I'm just caring for you. But do you really care, or you are actually feeling a bit worried something is going to happen once the person is going to have more space and freedom? And that brings another question. Where is the trust?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
Exactly. So these are basically those red flags which all of us must understand. Now things are getting towards toxicity. So as we are talking about toxicity, so I think we should jump from toxicity to a lighter note, and we should discuss now what is a healthy relationship.
So, okay, I'll tell you my understanding and healthy relationship. So, to me, healthy relationship is a relationship where there is a space for two people. When you can say, we can use governments for that. So it's not a dictatorship. It's not a kingdom. It's a democracy. So basically, you are there and you matter, and I am there and I matter. So that's first thing, you know, having kind of respect for each other. Another thing which is to me, is very big thing that shows if relationship is healthy is, am I okay for this person to have a different opinion from me and still be my friend, still be my partner, still be my sister, you know? Can I give this kind of like a respect and freedom to that person to have a differences from me and respect that? So that's another important thing for relationships, in healthy relationships. Another thing in healthy relationships, in my opinion, is kind of support that goes both ways. So it's not like a one person who's always calling for help. So, for example, if I have a friend and I always go and I talk to her and she always has her problems and my problems never matter, even though there is no other kind of, you know, let's say abusive signs or anything, but it's not balanced, you know, it's not healthy to have this dynamic going one way. So So I think that is very important. And another thing which is super important is honesty and ability to resolve problems between each other. So if you and I are friends and you are angry with me, I would like our relationship to be so you can come to me and say, Ruta, you know what? I'm actually angry. I was hurt when you did that. And then I could actually listen to you and say, either I was hurt as well, or I'm sorry, I didn't know, or yes, I actually didn't do this thing, right? So I think it's very important in a healthy relationship space to make mistakes. So I think that would be probably what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, I 100% agree with you. That space to make mistakes, it's a very interesting line that you just put it out. And I 100% agree with that, because if we are not having our space towards improvement, towards discussion, towards showing love and respect, we won't be able to carry on that relationship for so many years, because it's gonna get suffocation for us and for the people who are around us or who are in the relationship. I agree. And one thing which I would like to add in this healthy relationship, that it's very important to listen in a relationship and to communicate clearly. When we don't communicate clearly, out of like, you can say that sometimes people are very afraid of losing someone, and that person is not going to discuss any topic with that person. So that relationship will end, either it's today or after 1 month or after a year,
Yeah.
So it's important to communicate clearly. We often say things and we mean something else, and that particular point also hurt the healthiness of our relationship. So out of courtesy, out of fear, whatever it is, I just say to everybody that please talk clearly so that you can communicate your message to the other person, and things will get beautiful in the relationship. This is my personal opinion. What do you say, Ruta?
Absolutely. And however, I think it's not such an easy thing to do for many people, because so I think it's probably the most straight way to have relationships, and if you have any problems in the relationships, to resolve it. However, what happens many times, like you said, this kind of like maybe I shouldn't say, maybe this thing is gonna go away. It won't. Or maybe it's going to go away this time, it's going to come back. If it was problem, it's going to keep on occurring unless we're going to address it. So, another thing that I think I wanted to add to that is communication also. When we're communicating in any kind of relationship, it's very important to kind of approach it. I call it from the heart. From the heart space, not like, you know what, you did this to me, you did that to me, or this is your fault, or, that kind of thing. Because I think even people think they are communicating, often they don't. They often just kind of like put that angry energy, the words towards the other person, rather than saying, look, I feel insecure because that time it happened and you did that, and I'm not sure if that means this or that means the other thing, So vulnerability is very important, but lots of people, they kind of want to keep this kind of like, I'm okay, I'm fine, this, or at least where I live in this Western society is kind of very popular to be this person who can handle anything, who's okay with everything. I'm strong, I can handle this. Yes, I'm just gonna think positively or something, instead of saying, you know what, I'm actually really frightened. Actually, I'm really scared. This kind of like a vulnerability and ability to kind of show that you are feeling something which is not those, great emotions, and come with this vulnerability to another person is very special, but it's also very powerful and very important when you communicate. When you own what you feel and you come to the person with what you feel and you say, this is your feelings, this is your emotions, because I think that, it has a completely different result when you talk to the person. So if you have, if anybody who's listening have been problems in, well, whenever I try to talk to the person, they never listen to me often. Sometimes it's the person who doesn't listen, but sometimes it's because of the way we approach. We are not being heard because we approach with the weapons and, the guns, and, we just ready to shoot the other person rather than, to say, okay, this is me and this is what's going on. And, is that, can you help me?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I also want to mention over here is our wrong expectations. They really kill our healthy relationships. Like when we expect too much from the person, the other person is also having some kind of problem in his or her life. They might have some kind of issues going on within their family, and we are expecting that whenever we are going to approach that person, that particular individual will listen to us and will give us solution. And if sometimes that person fails to give the proper solution or time, we just end up our very beautiful relationships just because of this misunderstanding. So I think we must build some realistic expectations with our loved ones. Or there is nothing ideal in life, every person has ups and downs. Life is not like a stream of roses or a bed of roses. Everybody has stones, thrones, and many other disturbing things in their life. So I think one more thing which everybody needs to understand is stop expecting too much from each other. Just be realistic. Expect which is needed.
Yeah.
Right? What do you say, Ruta?
I say often two things that I want to say. One is often we have expectations without even talking about those expectations. For example, it's like, I expect I'm going to have 1,000 pounds in my bank account no matter what. Now, is that realistic? What if or let's say there are two people and they have 1,000 pounds and they both can spend money. How can I know that this money is there? Maybe, there was something happened, person needed to buy it. I don't know if that's a good example, but what I mean is, when we assume with our expectations, that's when we make a mistake. When we never talked about, what is that we are expecting. And sometimes we don't talk about it proactively, in the friends, like say in the friendships, for example, or in the family. But I think sometimes we expect one thing, but the person, we actually don't know, like you said, what is the realistic thing is. And we never actually even talked about what do I expect from you. So that's one thing. Another thing, I think being open with expectations is important. So openness, it means I'm human and you're human too. I like you said, one time I can give, another time I may not be able to. One time I can listen and I can, comfort you. Next time I'm going through the crisis myself. I don't have emotional capacity. I don't have time. I don't have space, and that is nothing personal. That's the thing I think that is important for people to understand sometimes. When you sometimes are not able to give what other people are expecting from you, it's not personal. Very often people are not trying to punish the other people. Now I'm not going to give it to you because I'm just going to, and I'm treating you badly. Sometimes it's not the truth. I believe that most of the people are good, to be honest. I believe that everybody was born good. I think what we see in the world, with some people is the result of trauma, emotional problems, and mental problems. So,
exactly.
and we never know, what happened to the person throughout the life. We never, even if we live with the person, we don't know what was their experience. So yes, with the expectations and, kind of like, sometimes we get disappointed. I get disappointed because I expect something but I never said that. For example, I expect something from my friend or from my family, and then I don't get it. But then when I think about it, did they ever promise to me that they're gonna always do that, or am I just assuming that they should be doing that? So
exactly.
it's like that.
Exactly. I totally agree. All right. Should we take questions? 1, 2 questions were there in the comment section. Should we take it now?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you can you see it? I don't.
Yeah. I'm gonna read it for you.
Okay.
Okay. One question was that why do we have relationships? Like one of the person is saying, is it important to have relationship?
Humans are social species. We're not
Yeah.
designed to live on our own. Anybody can take Google and Google it. That is not possible to thrive in isolation. What is the worst, what is the worst punishment in any country or even, when we grow up? You put in a jail, you put in a isolation. That's the biggest punishment, right? Well, I'm not talking about
That
physical
time out,
punishment. Yeah.
Often children were given time out. Okay, now this is your punishment.
Yeah. So it's a punishment. Being on your own is punishment. I'm not saying that many people need time on their own. We do need to have our own time. That's healthy and it's needed and it is important. But we need this interaction to kind of be able to express ourselves. We need this interaction to have this kind of like an experience of being with someone, sense of belonging, sense of connection. And, from the physical point of view, if you look at the hormones that are being produced in your body when you're with somebody that you love or you're close or or is dear to you, you're going to see that, it's produced in your body in a physical way. I'm not even talking about, the good energy and, the feelings. I'm talking about the actual chemical reaction to the other person when they are in your space. Sometimes even for some people, it's better to have somebody than be on their own as well. So I think a relationship is needed for being healthy as a human being.
Yes. That's true. Human being cannot survive alone. We need people in our life to do so many things. Even we cannot work in isolation. We cannot walk in isolation. We do have people and we need those people for our living as well. All right. So the next question is, it's more like a statement that sometimes our own anxieties and complexities basically cloud our thoughts and we are not able to recognize what is healthy and what is toxic in a relationship. So, Ruta, what you suggest for such people?
I would suggest
how to clarify the difference, no?
I would suggest get familiar with your anxiety and paper. It's a good thing. Sometimes when we don't recognize what we can write things down. So I think if we feel anxiety, it's true. Sometimes our emotions, they get mixed up. Sometimes we feel anxiety and we can feel, okay, maybe it's actually, I feel this anxiety because this is relationship is toxic, or I'm feeling anxiety because I have my own insecurities. Okay, so you are anxious. Take a piece of paper and pen, write down all the things that is making you anxious about the situation. So for example, I feel anxious because I had a conflict with this friend, and now she's not writing to me. So I'm anxious. So I would start to write down. I'm anxious because I think, first, she's not going to be my friend anymore. 2, I did something bad. 3, I don't know what is 3. Okay. She's gonna, I don't know, she's gonna talk badly about me. Or 4, I'm gonna be on my own forever. I'm never gonna find a friend. So you write these things down. Then you look at it. And then you decide. Then you don't have to decide. You can even go with that list to the person, and you can analyze it. So that would be, for example, the things that I have just mentioned would be example when I have anxiety, and it's actually all created by my own thoughts and by my own fears. Now, for example, let's take somebody who's in a partnership or in a marriage and is, for example, bad situation, right? And then you did something, and then you get anxious. Oh, my husband is gonna be angry with me. Oh, even without talking about physical, abuse, let's talk about, then he's gonna, I don't know, shout at me. Then he's, do something. So when we write it down, we can see if these things that we are anxious about originate in us, or we are anxious about what that other person is going to do. And then the other thing that we can do is we can check with that person. Is it true? Is it true that these things will happen in this situation? I mean, what I said is kind of like a simple kind of thing on the paper, but it's something to start off. Sometimes, with anxiety, it's not something that you can figure out straight away. But when you aware that you may have this anxiety and you may be causing this experience, that it could be, it doesn't have to be bad relationship. It could be that I have this anxiety. Openness is important. So, it could be the person or it could be me. It could be both. It could be this relationship has some toxicity actually, and I have some anxiety. Okay, how do we handle that? Is there space to make it healthy, or is there no space to make it healthy? And I always recommend, for anybody who cannot figure these things out on their own, to go and find somebody they trust, somebody who they trust, and to find somebody, for example, like a mental health practitioner or some specialist is good if you can afford it. I understand that not everybody is able to have the sessions or to pay for the sessions, but it is very good because you have a neutral person who's not on somebody's side. But I think the first point when you recognize it is actually already, half of a good start. What's your opinion? What would you suggest? I'm curious.
All right. So I would suggest the same, I guess, because I think a neutral person for resolving a relationship issue is the best idea ever. You can see the side of the other person too. Like I am the person who can see both sides of coin. But both sides cannot see each other, So that's why a neutral individual, a professional psychotherapist or a counselor is very important for resolving such kind of issues. Or if, as you said, that every individual is not able to approach psychotherapists because of so many reasons. So find that neutral individual in your family, in your friend circle, who is honest and who want to resolve the issue rather than misguiding you or manipulate you. So my take is almost the same as yours. Okay, Ruta, one more question is that sometimes people become our habit and they are toxic too. And we don't want that relationship, but because of that habit and a strong bond, we are not able to get over it without having a depression, So what should we do in that situation?
Some time ago, I was listening to this program, and there was this man called, I think, Earl Nightingale. It's from the 80s, or no, not even 80s, maybe 70s. when the radio programs were the thing, there was not much over TV on internet. And because he's very intelligent, I was listening to some of his recordings on iTunes. And one thing that he said was very, very, for me, important at that time about some friendships and relationships. They say, people imagine that you have to be able to fit in your friendships throughout all the life. They say it's the same as trying to put a child's shoe on a teenage person. It doesn't fit you anymore. My personal opinion is there are two ways of doing it. So one thing I think is to understand the reality that as a people we grow, we change, and sometimes we change in the different directions. And it's true that our the friendship is not the same as it was anymore. Or maybe at that point we were able to be in that toxicity, but now that we are becoming to take care of ourselves, and the other person doesn't really want to go on board with us, we have to make these difficult decisions. Sometimes we have to make these difficult decisions because continue to be in that, unhealthy dynamic is not good for you, and it's not good for that person who is being toxic, because the person who is being toxic, he's probably, they're hurting probably more than one person. And by people saying, okay, for this dynamic, it's the same as you see somebody, being beaten, and you say, oh, well, okay, let's just leave. I'm just going to be there. So when people say, no, this is not okay, and you move away, then the person might get a message, there is something that needs to change in the way they interacting. So that's that, so sometimes to finish those friendships, in my personal opinion, if it's really toxic, is one way. The other thing to do, like, I understand there is a nostalgia, there is this habit. Yeah. Sometimes we can redefine our friendship. And I know there is still feeling of loss. So sometimes there is still feeling of loss. But for example, I had one friendship where, it's a long-term friendship, but I was changing a lot, and I was becoming very much aware of all of these, emotional and mental health things. And I changed a lot. And it's not even one friendship. It's quite a few friendships that happened. And, what I did, for example, in some cases, I would be seeing I would spend lots of time with that person, but then I realized, what, I cannot do that anymore. And then I redefine the friendship. I don't have to cut you out from my life. I don't have to, delete your number, but maybe I can see you for a coffee for 1 hour once per month, just to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
But I think, if the other person doesn't want to collaborate and review the friendship or relationship, which happens very often, I think we actually have to accept the loss. It's a very kind of, hurtful thing, and it's a sad thing, but it's like a seasons change, this flower bloomed and now it's actually dying, and then we cannot just keep on put water on it. If it's not, nothing is coming out, what we can do, we need to accept that. So I think, I'm not saying that, oh my God, like there are some people who say, if it's toxic, cut it out, leave it. But I understand it's not so easy sometimes, because we have these connections and we have these memories and we have this habit of being with that person. But we need to do something about it, basically. That's my point. We need to kind of readjust, at least, so it becomes less toxic, or maybe toxicity doesn't even affect us. Maybe if we just see that person once per week or once per month for a cup of coffee, and we spend like a limited time, you can kind of like reduce the time, and then reduce the time, and then reduce the time. And then sometimes, usually what happens is like that person fades away because that person finds other people to spend time with. You have other people to spend time with, and then your circle changes naturally. So that would be my take on it. Do you have anything else? What would you do?
Um, I think this strategy of, a systematic desensitization kind of a thing, reduce the time gradually and then get rid of that toxicity from your life. That is a very good point. And one thing is that when we have recognized that, okay, now things are toxic, but this person or this relationship is kind of my weakness or my habit, whatever it is, I think then we must realize our own importance, our self-worth. When our self-worth, self-respect, mental health, our well-being is on edge because
Yeah,
of this toxicity, because of that person or a relationship, I think then we should decide gradually, of course, because it is a habit and it is, human
yeah,
addiction is the most dangerous one. So I think we should cut it with the passage of time. We should give ourselves some time to get out of this whole addiction.
yeah,
There
yeah,
is no single or 1 day or 2 day rule for cutting that kind of toxicity from life. We need
yeah,
time and we must focus on our own well-being,
yeah,
because it at the end of the day it's very important to maintain our own mental health, because if we are
yeah.
not mentally healthy, I don't think we can make any relationship healthy in our life. So
And
those
yeah,
people, yeah, please.
no, I was just saying, like, I personally feel that when we are not well, like, when we're not well mentally, we cannot be good friend. We cannot be good
Yeah,
daughter. We cannot be good
yeah,
mother. We cannot be good wife. We cannot be good girlfriend. We cannot be,
yeah,
we cannot do our function in the world in a good way. So it's like,
yeah,
it's not true that we're doing something good by maintaining this relationship, because probably we're not really being good friends to that toxic person either, because we don't really
yeah,
want to be with them. So,
yes,
um, and I think I forgot to mention that. I think probably it's important to mention, if it's possible, once I think sometimes it can change things when you notice that something is out of balance or toxic in your relationship. If you can talk about it with that person first, rather like,
yeah,
instead of, you start cutting and that person doesn't know what's happening. Why is she like, stop calling, what happened? That person might not
yeah,
know what is it. So I think if it's possible, I know it's not possible for everybody and it's not possible with all types of people, but if it's possible, it's very good to kind of have this conversation to see if there is any opportunity to change the dynamics. And then if there is no, at least the person will know, why are you distancing? And it's not going to
yeah,
be like, okay, she's bad because she or he, cut me out. But, if we told, if we said, if we had that conversation, then we did our
yeah.
bit, of communication. So yeah, yeah. It's a difficult thing to do, to kind of stage out and cut out, because toxicity is toxicity because you're in it and it's addictive and you kind of have this dynamic and you're in the dynamic, and to stop that dynamic because of the habit is very hard. But they
Yeah.
say, I don't know, what can I use? For example, if you have this dynamic, three things, and this does this to him, does this to him, this is victim, this is perpetrator, this is a good person, blah blah blah. It takes one person to step out, and the dynamic is not there. So to finish dynamic,
Yeah.
you need to kind of step out of that dynamic. Stepping out of that dynamic sometimes could be the hardest thing to do, and sometimes the only way of doing it is by actually literally distancing from the person. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's that.
Okay, one more comment is that um,
Hmm.
like girls are more sensitive than boys and they
Yeah.
take things seriously. So it's difficult for girls to get out of such relationship than boys or male people. So
Hmm.
what do you think, Ruta? Is it?
Um, I personally believe that, so we are all humans, but for example, I believe that women are designed to be more emotional because we are designed to have children and we're designed to emotionally connect, and we have this care and we have this, and it's in our nature. So I don't think it's the bad or good or anything. It's just the nature, you know, it's the nature. So it's true that, you know, like I think because men they usually thought to be strong, you know, just do it, just, you know, you're a man, you should be able to do. They have these habits, or they have this they are better at that. I agree. However, it is still possible for us to do it, because I think we can sometimes do this out of love. You know, we can do this out of love for ourselves in a possible, you know, in the healthiest possible way. Also out of respect for ourselves, and out of respect that, you know, we are human beings. You know, I'm deserving of respect. If, you know, if I'm being loved, why I'm being treated that way? You know, how would love would look like? I'm talking about love, but, you know, sometimes of course there is a friendship, which is also love, but still, it is true. It is more difficult, I think, because we tend to be attached more. Of course, there are exceptions. No, there is always exceptions. Sometimes, you know, sometimes you get women who are very assertive and they're very decisive and they can do these things. And sometimes we have a man who is very emotional, and, you know, these kinds of things happen. But we're all different and unique. So I want to emphasize that, yes, it is more difficult, but at the same time, I want to say, as well as it is more difficult, we have an opportunity to do it in a more beautiful way, because we, you know, because we are so sensitive and we are so emotional and we tend to attach. We can also, you know, do it with the love and kindness. It's like, look, you know what? I cannot, you know, we're not just gonna buy. We're gonna be like, look, I can't do this. This is too much. I'm feeling this. And another advice for the woman or the man, or, you know, but let's say for the woman, get support group. Your friends is your strength. Sometimes you need the strength that you don't have at that moment. But if you have someone with you, which is there, you have more of that determination. If you know that, you know, you decided to do something and it's gonna be very hard for you, get support proactively. Talk to your friends that you trust. Talk and, you know, say, look, this is what's gonna happen. I know it's gonna be very hard for me. I will need your support, and have them on board with you already. So because we are so you know, relationshiply good, and we are good at the connections, we're good at networking, we have our girls you know, support systems, we can also use that capacity for having good relationships to actually even get out of relationships, because we have the other type of relationship holding us, supporting us, reminding us why, you know, why we are cutting off, reminding us what happened. And, you know, so use it, use this connection to cut the other connection.
True. One thing I would like to mention over here, that I think men has more distractions. They know how to put out their energies if they are going through a breakup or any kind of, you know, cutting off a toxic relationship. While on the other hand, females are so much into that relationship that they just forget about the distractions, or as you said, the support group, their friends, their other family members. They don't think about them. They are 100% focused on that particular relationship or a person. That also make it harder for females to cut the toxic relationship out, I think.
And Sorry, I just wanted to add something which I think is important. For example, especially for the breakups, I think sometimes people they expect you're gonna break up and you just, for you to be able to break up, you just need to get out and then you don't need to interact with that person and that's it. It's not true. You need to let yourself time to grieve, to feel sad about it. You need to let it out of your system, because if you you cut it off and then I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Some point you may flip the other side. So it's good to allow yourself, and it's best if you have a support to kind of, it's very sad that it's finishing, or it's very sad that it is over. You get it out of your system and then you can kind of move on. I think men very often what they do, they kind of cut off that emotionality. They don't allow them to feel that. That's why it looks like they have recovered. But it is true that they say women take these emotional things. Actually, our capacity for emotional things and how many things we can handle is much greater. And I think it's because we are processing it. Sometimes men, they grieve or they cannot get over some kind of, relationship which was over for a long time, because they never allow themselves to really kind of get it out of their system, the sadness, this grief. So it, if something is broken, it doesn't mean that you have to be happy straight away. It doesn't mean that you have to be fine and function. Of course it's sad. Of course it's difficult. Of course it is hurtful. But it's like when you have something, you have a wound, you have something stuck in there. And it hurts when it takes out. Maybe it hurts if they do some stitches. But after that, it will heal. So that's how I see it. Sorry, I interrupted you. You wanted to say something.
No. That's totally fine. And that was a very important point to mention in this live talk. All right, Ruta, we are at the end of our live session. And
I cannot believe it.
Yes, it's already 1 hour, Ruta?
No way.
Yeah. It was amazing talking to you.
Me too. I really enjoy it because I actually enjoy. It's sometimes rare to find a person being so passionate about emotional well-being and health like I am. So I'm very glad to have met you and had this opportunity, because I think it's also useful, like in this forum to kind of like share opinions and have some, conversations about that for people to be able to kind of, to know and hear about some examples and, what happens. But anyways, relationship is something I think we can talk for a long time. So 1 hour went so quickly. Anyways, very nice to meet you, and I really enjoyed this, and it went really fast.
Yeah, it does. And I also enjoyed talking to you, enjoyed the question answer session, whatever we have discussed so far. It was so informative and so on point that I think this is the most amazing thing between your and my talk, is that we express we express our opinions so flexibly, so easily, and people from both the sides, either they are from Eastern society or from Western society, they can relate to us, they can relate to our opinions, and I just hope that they will learn how to cut their toxic relationships out to maintain their mental health and well-being. So thank you so much, Ruta, for accepting my invitation and coming on board. It was amazing talking to you and having you on this set topic of healthy relationships.
Thank you very much, Kainat, and the pleasure is mine. I believe no matter where in the world you are, problems are the same. So it's a good, it's a good way to actually make it applicable for everybody and how to do it. So thank you so much, and I hope I'll talk to you sometime again.
For sure, I would love to talk to you sometime again, and definitely we gonna disturb you again and again to come on board and talk to us tell us about the experiences you are having. So thank you so
Okay.
much, and see you
Thank you.
next time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.